Okay, let's talk about simplifying trig expressions here a little bit. Again, just to help you kind of review, I wanted to go through a couple of these just to make sure that you really understand what's going on, okay? So I'm going to look at number 12 here. We're talking about cotangent over cosecant, and we want to simplify these as much as possible. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to split this up, and I'm going to change this to be cotangent, which we know is cosine over sine. And I'm going to multiply that by cosecant, 1 over cosecant, okay? I'm just splitting that up so that I can simplify. Then I'm going to think about cosecant, which I know is sine. 1 over cosecant, therefore, is just sine, which means that I'm multiplying by sine over 1. Now, as you can see, I have a sign on top and on bottom. Those simplify, and I'm left with just cosine of x, okay? So when we're simplifying, it's okay to separate stuff out and kind of think of like the cotangent and the cosecant as separate entities so that we can simplify with those. Let's try another one. On number 14 here, we want a common denominator so that we can add these together. So I know my common denominator is going to be 1 minus cosine times sine, which means I'm going to multiply this first fraction by sine and the second one by 1 minus cosine. Sine times sine is just sine squared. Now, 1 minus cosine times 1 minus cosine is 1 minus 2 cosine x plus cosine squared, okay? You are FOILing this out or using the box, however you choose to multiply, but you're multiplying it out. It's not just 1 minus or plus cosine squared. You have to remember multiply the whole thing so that you get all the pieces and then combine your like terms, okay? Now, once I've got this on top, I can simplify from here. I know that sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So I'm just going to substitute that with a 1. I'm rewriting everything out. So now on the top here, I've got 2 minus 2 cosine x over the denominator. I'm not going to write it because I'm feeling a little lazy tonight. Now, I'm going to factor this top. I'm going to factor a 2 out of both of those, which leaves me with 2 outside, 1 minus cosine x, which conveniently cancels with the 1 minus cosine x on bottom. And I'm left with 2 over sine x. Now, I'm going to split this up, and I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times 1 over sine x, because I know that 1 over sine x is cosecant, which means I have 2 cosecant x. That whole thing is simplifying, okay? So I wanted to talk about finding a common denominator because I know that's something we kind of struggle with. And then to go even farther, we still have to simplify as much as we can in that numerator, okay? So anytime you have a sine squared plus a cosine squared, you have a 1. So I added those together and I substituted this 1. Then I added that to the 1 that I already had there from the 1 minus 2 cosine x, and I got my 2 minus 2 cosine x. I factored a 2 out of both of those terms, leaving me with a 1 minus cosine x, which I then canceled with the bottom, leaving me with 2 over sine, and 1 over sine is cosecant, so 2 over sine is 2 cosecant, okay? There's kind of a lot there, but this is a pretty common problem, something very similar to this, so I want to make sure that you understand all of the pieces there. The other one I wanted to look at is this cosecant squared tangent minus tangent. This is factoring, and this is something that we definitely could use a little bit more practice on. So what do I see? I see that they both have a tangent x. So I'm going to factor that out. And in the first term, I'm left with cosecant squared. The second is 1 because I factored out that tangent x. Now, here's the reason we do this. We have an identity with the cosecant squared x, okay? The identity that we are going to be working with is the, 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared. We've talked about this one a little bit, but notice it's not exactly the same. So I want to kind of manipulate this. I know that if I subtract 1 to this side, it eliminates over here, and I'm left with cosecant squared x minus 1, which is what's in my expression here. And then I know that that's equal to cotangent squared. So I'm actually going to substitute that in. So now I have tangent times cotangent squared. From there, I can simplify. I know that tangent is 1 over cotangent. And I know that cotangent squared x I can put over 1. And then I can simplify by canceling out one of them, which simply leaves me with cotangent x. And that's simplified. Okay. So we're using a lot of different identities as well as algebraic processes here to help us sort of figure all of this out. And make sure that you have your identities handy so that you can refer back to them and know which ones that you need to use, okay? So there's a lot of different simplifying here that we kind of talked about, finding a common denominator, simplifying by separating, and then of course using your Pythagorean identities, using your reciprocal identities, using your quotient identities, etc. Hopefully this helps make a little more sense of this for you as well, and you are feeling a little more confident using those trig identities.